Hello there, Ray here, and behind me is a lot of different contraptions that use really neat tricks. We got stuff like shaky sand over here, we got zero ticking farms, we got sand generators, TNT dupers, and a lot of other things that players use in their survival world. And I've had quite a few comments from you guys saying that some of the stuff is broken in 1.15, so today we're going to go through and test it to see if it still works. And if it doesn't work, we're going to try to find a fix for it. So let's get into testing all this cool stuff. Let's first test out the wither, which is over here inside of this bedrock cube. And what we did with our testing with him, we're going to check to see if it's still possible to make the wither skulls instantly explode upon being summoned in. Now, some of you guys saying that the wither was escaping from the gateway portals inside of the wither rose farm. And this is a similar setup where we have bedrock on top, we got some bedrock around it. You can remove this too. Same kind of X shape here. The only difference is down below we have a fence. So it's important that you keep the wither facing forward. So let's go ahead and put in a target for the wither. We'll just grab a chicken. If you put a chicken right here, he's facing forward. That's good. But you can see he's able to hit it. So let's put in that cobble wall underneath of him. So this is how the wither should be, but you also want him to face forward. Like those blue wither skulls that you just shot off to the side, it's possible for those to be shot downwards and to break that cobble wall there. So the Enderman farm, we have him shooting at the targets, which are like Enderman in front of him, which he can still do in this situation here. But then there is an on and off switch that I provide with a world download, and this includes pushing a cobble wall into the wither. So cobble wall goes right here, and we have a piston right here, and then we go ahead and push it in. And let's go ahead and test it. So now we have a chicken over here. Is the wither able to hit it? And it seems no, because it looks like it's working as before, where the wither's skulls are immediately exploding. So in this situation, he shouldn't be able to shoot any skulls off, therefore he shouldn't be able to remove the wall which is holding him up. So that is a safe way to keep this wither. So I think the biggest problem is people just not turning off their withers after they're no longer using their Enderman farm. Or they're using it on like a multiplayer server where someone else comes in, takes up the Enderman cap, and therefore the wither gets bored and starts shooting skulls. Random locations, including downwards towards his feet. And if you want to, you can come in and put in some like safety devices to see if no more pearls come through the system, then you can automatically turn off the wither if you want to. So that's working good. Let's move on. Next thing we got over here is the Looting 3 Fox. They did do some changes to foxes during the 1.15 snapshots, making sure that they are no longer players. So let's actually make sure that the looting, which is normally only a thing that a player does, is still applied using the fox's Looting 3, which he has inside of his mouth there. So we got here is a bunch of chickens. And this is my automatic Looting 3 chicken farm. And we're going to go ahead and test it. We'll just clear out these items. And now when these chickens grow up, the fox will be able to kill them. And the items will be picked up and put into the chest down below. If you want to check out this really cool chicken farm, I did a separate video, which I'll link down below. There you go. You see the fox killed the chicken. Let's check and see if the looting is applied. If it was, that means we should get more than one cooked chicken, as every chicken has a 100% chance of dropping one, and with looting, they should drop more than one. Let's check. Ah, we got 3. So it is working. That is amazing. So Looting 3 still works for foxes. Very cool. Now this next device here is one that actually broke in past versions, so I know it doesn't work anymore, as this world is a world where we test to see if stuff works in every new version. So it's a really easy way to come in and check things out. I have been using this world for quite a few versions now, so it's nice to come in and easily test it. This is a bedrock breaking setup by Ed Example, one of the ProtoTech members, and I'll link his video as well as any other videos that I talk about during this testing. So this can be set up in survival. We got some headless pistons, but he shows how you can easily do that. And the question is, will this bedrock be broken? Everything else here is normal stuff you can do in survival with pistons, and if we flick the switch, yes, the bedrock is broken. You see it is no longer here, so bedrock breaking is still in 1.15. Now there's another setup for bedrock breaking on this testing world. We might as well go ahead and test it. It's a little bit different. This one has to do with replacing a piston when it is being destroyed during the retraction stage. So that one relied more on headless pistons, and this one relies on making the game think that this piston is retracting, but from the other direction, therefore it would remove anything that's in front of it. So essentially what's going to happen is this piston is going to retract, and we're going to place another piston in there, and it's going to complete its retracting stage, but facing this direction, which will remove this bedrock here. And you have to be very fast at clicking to make this work. So if you're having trouble getting this to work, check out the original video. He goes into more detail at how this is directional. So it will not work in some directions unless you flip some stuff around. But this world here, I got everything set up correctly. What you want to do is place in the TNT there. You want a piston and then aim and place a new piston over here and spam very quickly. And you see that time it did not work. Let's go ahead and try it again. And there, it broke. Okay, so it still works. It's a little bit finicky, and you definitely have to do a little bit of practicing and creative before you would want to do this in survival. But yeah, this world will be all set up so you guys can come on and practice it. Next up is my quick iron farm. And a lot of times you guys say you have problems with this, and you're saying that the villagers sometimes choose this workstation as their workstation. This can be fixed pretty easily. As you can see, we have a bunch of cauldrons here, and if you put those in first, they'll choose those as a workstation, and then you come in later and place in your composter, or it could be cauldrons. You can vice versa, so you can even change these out with other types of workstations. And these villagers, there's 3 of them. They got their workstations, they got their beds, they're able to sleep, they're also able to get scared by the zombie. This is everything you need to make the iron farm work. And there's some other things. You have to make sure that the day time is moving. So right now I actually have it frozen for quite a while. If it stays frozen, it's not going to work because they have to sleep and they also have to work, which is time specific. So I do time set night, and night will allow them to sleep in their beds, but they're also going to get scared by the zombie. So as soon as they go to bed, they're going to wake up. And then they also need to be able to work, which is kind of the earlier times of the day. And they also work around noonish. So if I switch it to noon, they should go to their workstations and work as well. And these are only really 2 things that are time specific to make your iron farm work. And then we should get an iron golem to spawn. And there you guys see it. There is an iron golem, and he moves towards the center, and he goes into lava, and he will die. So yeah, the iron farm does work. You just got to make sure the villagers can do those things, which they should do in a normal vanilla survival world. And once iron golem does die, we just have some chests here, which is picking up all the loot. Working great, and you guys can always refer to this world if you're having trouble with your iron farms. I've also had people say that their fence gates start to burn. Well, you can always switch them out with something else like signs here. It doesn't really matter. Something that just holds back the water but doesn't create a collision box for the iron golem to fall on top of. So I know some versions, gates will burn differently than other versions. And this is designed for Java, so I'm not sure if it'll work in other editions. But let's move on. What we have over here is some other testing we did to do with villagers and pillagers and vindicators. Here we have the notorious weaponless pillager, discovered by actually one of my viewers, which is really cool. And he has a video about it. And the way you get these guys about is you make them use up all their durability on their crossbow, and then their crossbow breaks and they're left without a tool in their hand. And they are completely peaceful, like they can walk around without doing any damage to any mobs. Unlike some mobs like skeletons, which will whack when they don't have a bow in their hand, these guys will not. But we'll also test that. Let's go ahead and summon in a pillager with a crossbow with very, very low durability. And when he uses up his durability on his crossbow, you see it broke there, and he is without a crossbow. Let's go ahead and just let the pillager and the villager go together. And yep, like he has no interest in killing this guy. He is now completely normal. You can now join the society of the villagers. It's pretty cool. So that is still working. We also got our nether end portals here. There's a couple tests to do over in these dimensions to see if chunk loading is working, as well if the pearl warp is in this version. And you can see right away we have some chunk loader testings. These were made for me by Fax. He has a really cool data pack that we put together to test out to see if chunk loading still works in 1.15. So if I pull up the chunks by pressing F3 plus G, you can see these boxes around the player. These are individual chunks, and the game will choose to load them or unload them depending on where the player is in the world and what is going on in the world. As the game doesn't want to try to load every single chunk in your world at once, because that'd be very tedious, so it kind of unloads them as you're no longer close to them. So with these chunk analyzer bees that we got here, we can see which chunks are being loaded, and they are written there in chat. It says the chunk number, as well as if it's entity processing and what type of processing is going on in those chunks. So I put a few bees going diagonally away from our nether portal over here, and it goes way over here. We can actually add a couple more. Really easy to use this data pack. And I'll explain more about the data pack in a separate video, but it's a nice way to visualize what is going on in different chunks. So these chunks are all moving away from the player. So if I go this direction, pretty soon the bees at the very far end are going to start to unload. And I have it so that every 5 seconds it's going to analyze the chunks. So entity processing, meaning that bees or any entity is going to be processed by the game. And the way that we're doing this check is we're seeing if the bee's age is going up. If a baby bee starts to grow upwards, we can check that, and then we can determine that the chunk is now allowing that to occur, meaning that the bee is being processed by the game. And entity processing is illustrated by green, like life is occurring, like the bees are alive. Next one is the block processing, which is represented by red for like redstone, meaning that redstone works in these chunks, but entities do not. So this is block processing. And the way we check for that is as soon as we notice that the bee's age is not able to go up anymore, it then has a command block being placed above the bee, and if that command block works, then we know that that chunk can process blocks, even though it can't process entities like the bee growing up. But if we even go further yet, we're way down here. This bee is at the very, very far corner, farthest away from the player. This one cannot process entities like the bee's age going up, and it cannot even process the block being placed above the bee. But the game is still able to notice that there is a bee out there, even though it's not making it grow up, and the block above it is not being processed. So these bees are actually being counted towards the mob cap, and they're shaded in gray because that is very close to being unloaded by the game. If we go any farther, then this chunk is going to be unloaded. But since the game is still checking to see if this mob, the bee, is way out there, even though it's not processing it, it means that it's technically loaded, and therefore it's going to count towards the mob cap. A very cool data pack that Fax put together for me, and I'll be talking about more about this data pack in a separate video. But if you would like to go ahead and download it, it will be on the ProtoTech Discord in the channel called Mods and Helpful Tools. So with this cool tool, we can go ahead and check to see if the Nether portal chunk loading still works without a player. I showed you guys way back in 1.8 where I discovered it's possible to chunk load other dimensions without a player, and we've been testing it ever since. And then now in 1.14, they kind of did an official update where they made that a feature of the game, but they did do a lot of changes with 1.15 and chunk loading. So go ahead and test it. If you're curious about the other videos that we did on chunk loading, I'll link them down below as well. The way we do this is we throw an entity through the portal, and this is going to load the other dimension for a short period of time, but it can be done without a player. Let's go ahead and throw an item through, and you can see what's going on. What we have is we have 2 chunks that are entity processing. So the initial chunk where the portal is at, and then 1 chunk away from it. Then another chunk farther is our redstone or block processing chunk there. And then this is where it's a little bit different from other versions. We have that extra chunk, which is not even processing the blocks, but it's still being checked by the game. And there's your mob processing chunk. But yeah, you can definitely see it is loading the Nether dimension without any player being over there. So it's really cool that it is still in the game. As a lot of my farms use this to keep chunks loaded. And you can do the same kind of test in the end dimension as well. Here we are in the end dimension, and we can place like a bee here or here. And then we can leave the end dimension, and then we can throw items in, and we can see if they're getting processed. So we throw a item over into end dimension, and yeah, it's briefly loaded, but it's not loaded like it used to be, where you could load large amounts of areas just by throwing items through. But you can see the game is checking every once in a while to see what's going on in that chunk, even though it's not processing the blocks or the entities. Like I said, I'll talk more about this in a later video. Now let's finish up our testing in the Nether dimension to do with pearl warping, which is something that we noticed being removed in the last version. And at that time they did some changes to Nether portals, but they also changed Nether portals once again this version. So easy way to pull off the trick is you can either use a couple different techniques. One I like using is lining up, throwing a pearl in, and then jumping at the same time. But it looks like we're having the same results we had in 1.14. where the pearl is immediately teleporting the player once it hits the platform of the obsidian. Let's go ahead and just try it over here. We have a little bit smaller portal, and yeah, see we now clipped into the bedrock. I'm not sure why that is when you do this kind of trick with a portal that is kind of cheated into the game, why your player goes through the bedrock immediately. But when you're doing it with like this one, I suppose you're hitting the top portal, and if it was possible to hit the bottom one, then you would be able to go through the ground just like so. So I'm guessing it's similar to doing maybe like this or something. Oh, that pearl got teleported, but I don't think it took us anywhere. Let's see, if we go into other dimension, it might have went to other dimension. It might teleport us as soon as we get over there. Maybe not. But I think we can safely say that portal pearl warping is no longer in the version of 1.15 either. Next up, we're going to test to see if we can still fly in Minecraft using a minecart and a fishing rod. This is a really cool thing I discovered by accident during a Twitch stream. But essentially, if you right-click very quickly, you're able to fly with a minecart and a fishing rod in survival. Let's go ahead and give it a try. I have a spam clicker, and holy moly, yes guys, it still works. You can still fly in Minecraft using just a minecart and a fishing rod. Very cool. Over here, we got a few different types of dupers. Here we got a TNT duper. Let's go ahead and give it a try. This is the one that I showed way back in 1.13. Curious about any of these, like I said, videos will be down below, but it looks like the TNT is working. It's being duplicated as well as also pushed with this design. I think you can actually make it go 2 directions just by placing a block in front like that. Yeah, that makes it do both direction, which is something that some people might find useful. We also got our different types of rail dupers. So this is a activator rail or a straight on rail. So it could be a power rail. Works good. You can see the items are coming off. This one over here is a normal rail, which sometimes can duplicate a little bit differently, but it works exactly the same. And over here we have a carpet duper. We did have to mess around with this one a little bit in 1.15. because our old version didn't work, but yeah, this one is now working. And you can actually extend this too, we found out. So if you put like the piston way up here, and then you can place carpets all the way up to there. Now you can place in a power source up here, and it'll duplicate all those carpets. And during our snapshot stream, we also found out if you put a block here, it'll actually duplicate it in both directions. So if you place it that way, it dupes that direction. If you pull it, it also dupes, which is pretty cool. So down here we have a chest. I can't remember what was in here. Oh, a brewing stand. Looks like the brewing stand exploded. Let's put it over here. And we also got glass bottles. So we're seeing if we can actually put these into this brewing stand as a stack. Let's go ahead and go into survival. We need a little bit of room, but essentially what you can do is spread your bottles out one at a time, then shift click them in. And yes, it's possible. Where normally you're only able to put 1 item in each of the slot, you're able to put multiple up to 64. And you can see if I try to do this just by clicking them in there, it's not possible. You have to use this trick where you space them out and shift click them in. So that is still in the game. What we got next over here is the sand generators as well as the dragon egg or anvil generators. You can also use these for concrete. And this here is my simple design. There's also faster ones. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, it's putting sand through. Go ahead and turn that off. So now we'll go through the end portal ourselves and see if the sand actually duplicated. Oh, there it goes. It is definitely working. That is great to know. And if you guys are curious how to do the entire setup, like I said, watch the video. But also we got the dragon egg generator. This is my simple setup. And we'll turn it on right here. And I do have to replace the egg from above like that. Now one thing I noticed is that the portals that are supposed to be here are vanishing. I don't know why. This is like the 4th time the gate portal right here vanished. I'm definitely going to have to look into it. It's probably some kind of bug. So let's set block a new end portal here, just like so. And then we'll turn it back on again and replace the egg. And let's watch our work. We can even turn on bounty boxes. And we can turn that off and go in there and check for eggs that are flying. There they go. Yep. It works. So yeah, you can duplicate sand, concrete, eggs, anvils, anything that falls by gravity. We have one more test I want to do is ultimate mob generator. Something I discovered quite a while ago. It has been quite popular, especially on like anarchy servers where you push a mob through a end portal and kill at the same time, and you can get the items that the mob has. So like a zombie holding an item or a donkey carrying items, all that can be duplicated. This guy has a banner in his hand. Let's just make sure we don't have any banners in our inventory. And we have room to pick up any banners that are duplicated. Go ahead and release him. He also has a low amount of health, so he should die. Let's watch him die when he hits the lava. Yes. I even seen the banner there. Let's go in after him. And hey, look at that. We got the banner, and we also got the zombie, which has a banner. So if we would kill him, we end up with 2 banners. Very cool. In the end dimension, we actually have some other tests that we want to do as well. But in the center here, we have our ender crystals, and there's a few different things. You can see we got some glitched out ender crystals, which are always shooting this beam out of them. But what we want to test is to see if we can still summon in a dragon with just 2 ender crystals. Let's grab one of these and I'll turn down my explosions. And let's go ahead and see if we can get the ender dragon to come back into the game, just like so. Yes, it looks like it works. Now, something we did notice during our testing is there is these weird collision boxes up here. These are hit boxes by some entity. We did a bunch of testing. We found out that these are actually coming from the ender crystals. So the ender crystals around the edges, but it seems like these ender crystals hitboxes are a little bit off center. So right here, it looks like there is an ender crystal here, but the real ender crystal is over here. So that's probably just some visual problems. If you would actually hit this ender crystal, it will blow up. So you don't have to hit like way over there. But we did notice a second thing, which is the ender dragon's little hitboxes, which are normally inside of it, are way above it now. We can see these little green boxes over here. These actually go to the dragon way down there, and they kind of represent the different parts of the dragon. As that really big box, like if you ever try to hit that in survival, it doesn't really count. You have to hit these little teeny green boxes, which are very difficult to normally hit, especially if you don't turn hitboxes. But yeah, there is 9 different entities to do with one ender dragon, and these are all the different pieces. Obviously, the little teeny piece in the head there is the most vulnerable piece of the dragon if you're trying to do the most damage. Once again, this is just a visual bug. If you try to hit those, it's not going to do any damage to the dragon down below. So next test I want to do is see if we can still get invulnerable ender crystals, which was that little flying machine that was flying. So I'm going to just grab another backup of the world and we'll go ahead and test that. So now we're actually going to test to see if we get invulnerable ender crystals, but I'm actually showing you another little weird glitch. So notice when I place down the second ender crystal, my guy will then do a hand animation even though I don't right click. So right about now, my guy will right click for no reason. I never clicked at all. That is something strange to do with 1.15 only, but we're going to watch it read some of these ender crystals. You can see that the game is actually putting in like 2 ender crystals in some of these situations. And here we have our flying machine. When the obsidian resets, it's going to delete part of the obsidian, which is holding the machine backwards, and it's going to fly in and push the ender crystal. And the hitbox looks like it's over there, but it's still over here. And we're going to move it safely over here. Now we're just going to kind of ignore the dragon for now, but I want to see if this ender crystal is invulnerable, meaning that it cannot be destroyed in survival. Very useful thing to have in your survival world. So to do that, we have to go into survival mode and we have to try to whack at this ender crystal. And you can see we cannot destroy the ender crystal. Definitely a very cool item to have, not only for the looks because it produces this beam all the time in your world, but it also has some very cool uses. Now these ender crystals can be destroyed when you're in creative. I'll just demonstrate that. But it can't be destroyed when you're in survival. Now there's one other thing we want to test in the end dimension here. It has to do with making endstone farms, as I've designed quite a few of them in the past, but some other cool uses like moving these gateway portals into locations where they normally wouldn't generate. So typically these entrant gateway portals would take you out to the outer end island. So if I go through like this one over here, it'll take me to the outer end islands, which is right over there, and it'll produce a exit gateway portal. This is how you can exit the outer end islands. But notice how the game will actually place it onto blocks that are closest to the main end island, and we can actually use this to our advantage. So in this world here, I have one area already set up where if I go through this gateway portal, it's going to spawn in a endstone platform way far away from the outer end islands and place a exit gateway portal on top of that. So it still works. If you do this up here, you gotta make sure to have blocks kind of occupying those chunks. So the game thinks that this is the closest piece to the main end island, and therefore it should spawn the gateway portal on top of it. You guys can always refer to this world download if you're looking to do this in your very own survival world. So let's head back over into spawn. We have a couple really cool things to test out. Over here we have the zero tick farms. We also got the shaky sand and some smaller stuff over here as well. Like here is a way we used to be able to get uncraftable arrows, which is something only can get in creative. So what you do is put a bunch here and you shift click it, and it will remove the NBT tag, making these weird looking arrows. They don't really have any cool properties other than looking quite strange and only being normally obtainable in creative. So that is still in the game. We also got a 2 tall seagrass plant that is just kind of sitting here without any blocks around it. I'll show you guys how you can replicate this. You just need a seagrass block and start out by planting at the very bottom. Then go ahead and grab some bone meal and get it to be nice and tall. Then you can remove these blocks, and they actually don't update because the seagrass itself is waterlogged and it's not allowing the water to leave. So you can kind of get these little water patches that you can walk in and out of very easily. Now over here we have the zero tick farms. We got quite a few of them. This one here is by Techman88. Let's go ahead and start her up. You can see it updating the cactus with these pistons. It's causing the cactus to grow very quickly. We see it break a couple of times and pushing the items off to the side. That one is working. Go ahead and turn that one off. Over here we have quite a few other ones. Back here is a sugarcane one, and each of these can be started up just by putting some redstone dust right here. Let's see if it grows. Yes, it does. Okay, it's growing very quickly. That is exactly what we want. So that one's working. Over here is a bamboo variation of it. And we're moving back and forth. Yes, growing. Awesome. And here we have a cactus. And we have a block there. It's popping off. As soon as it grows, that block automatically will make it pop off. And that was working as well. The last one here is the chorus plant. And this one works a little bit differently, where the flower needs to be directly on the end stone. So we'll start it up and place in the chorus flower. And you can see this one is working as well. The chorus flower grew up. You can harvest this for the chorus fruit. Those all seem to work. And over here we have the shaky sand. Quite a few people say that shaky sand no longer works in the 1.15 full release. Let's go ahead and place in our sand there. You can see it is shaking. Sometimes you might not get it on your first try like that. You just want to retry. So the sand is shaking. Let's see if it actually creates updates. We'll put a cactus on top and see if it grows. There it goes. It grows up. I'm going to break it. And it grows again. Yes. Very nice. So it is creating tons of updates to this cactus, which makes it want to grow. And it is quickly growing. So they are still in 1.15. If you want to look at some really cool designs, Eagle Eye has quite a few on his channel. And he's also a member of the ProtoTech community. Now this up here, the sand will break off if you relog. So log back in and you can see it broke off. But Eagle Eye has a new setup where the sand will not break and you can reuse this once you have relogged, which is really cool. So check out his video. Also drop him a sub if you're not already subscribed to him. He's making a lot of cool videos to do with zero ticking farms. So last thing I want to test is something you guys mentioned during the stream, which is being able to instantly replace blocks in midair. I showed you guys this back in 1.14 where you can actually break this block and put a new block there in the exact same time. And you can also do this in survival. I'll link the video down below, but let's go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to break and place this bedrock block in the exact same spot, and that's what it looks like. Yes, it does work. Very cool. This is very useful for like rotating stuff. So let's say you have a piston and you want to put a piston in facing this way. Instead of actually having to place a block up there, you can just do that, and now it's facing downwards. Or you come above it and do that, and now it's facing above it. Now, there was some minor changes that we've seen with these different devices, but for the most part, everything is working exactly the same. Now, there is some stuff that did change at 1.15. As you guys know, on the ProtoTech SMP, we try to collect rare mobs, blocks, and items that only can be obtained in certain versions. So I'll be doing a separate video going over those changes. And these are things you want to collect in your 1.14 world before upgrading to 1.15. And if you guys would like to look at this world in more detail and mess around with these different devices, I will provide it down below. Make sure to share this video with other Minecrafters when they ask if something still works on 1.15. And a like on the video is always appreciated. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and bye-bye.